directed. Score! Game 7! Martin St. Louis! We are going back to Tampa Bay! A Cavalier spinning. A Cavalier looking. Trying to drop it off. Brings it in himself. Left it in the middle. Shot! Score!
Welcome everyone to another episode of Thunderstruck with your host Philip Wunderlich, co-host Jake Ricker, as well as co-host Michael Wax. We'll start with you, Michael. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. We're inching closer to NHL playoff hockey, and I'm really excited. Plus, MLB opening day is tomorrow as we're recording this.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to watch my Angels. Hopefully we do well this season. Wasn't too great last season, but more about hockey. Jake, what's going on, buddy?
Nothing much. I'm excited. We're getting closer and closer to playoff time, so we got the exhibition games coming up. I'm excited. How about yourself, Phil?
I'm doing well. You know, we have a decent amount to talk about this week. Not going to be as long as last week, but we still have a decent amount to cover. Why don't I start out welcoming everybody that has now subscribed to us. I really appreciate the subscribing, and I hope one of you are lucky enough to win the jersey that are listening to this show. And we're going to start off with some news around the league here. So apparently Sidney Crosby left early from a practice. Mike, you have more on this.
Yeah, so because of the NHL's policy, they can't really elaborate on injuries or COVID cases unless the players themselves specifically come out and say, you know, I have this injury or I tested positive for COVID or anything like that. But Sidney Crosby left a couple of days ago from practice, did not show up the next day, and then today, we're recording this on Wednesday, July 22nd, he showed up again. So, you know, it's things like that and Carter Hart's injury, which he did show back up to practice as well, that really are concerning to teams in the playoffs with the health and safety of their players. It's not only because of COVID, it's because of they have had a lot of rest and rust, to be honest, and this isn't really the best timeline in terms of getting them back into the swing of things.
Yeah, and luckily for the Flyers, they're playing for seeding, so maybe that'll give Carter Hart a little more of a rest, because I wouldn't want to rush my number one goaltender back. But yeah, like you said, it's big news for Sidney Crosby. I mean, we talked last week about All-Stars not being able to participate. And if Sidney Crosby's not ready to go, I mean, we'll get into it later, but I think the Canadians would win that series.
Yeah, I don't think this is a major concern as of right now with everything going on. We're going to see some injuries. We're going to see some players being held out. I think this becomes a bigger concern once we get into the bubble in Toronto. And when we start seeing players not be able to practice at that point, I think that when there becomes a bigger concern. But as of right now, you know, obviously you want to keep your eye on it, but I don't think this is a major issue for anybody considering it's still early.
Yeah, they do. Like I said, they do have some more time to rest. Talking about the league news, one of the big upcoming news is that Seattle just released a video today, and they said that they're going to have a name by tomorrow. I know they said they were going to have a name, you know, they keep delaying it, but the fact that they're actually officially going to have a date and everything else, and they showed that little video, it's big for the NHL. And with you know, the way that Vegas emerged in their first season, I think it's going to be really big, especially being in that market.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what their name is. I know the name will probably be released by the time you all are watching this podcast, but this is something a lot of fans have been waiting for. It's always fun to see a new team come in, new name, and just the logistics of creating a new team is always fun and exciting. So I think it'll be a nice boost for the NHL to finally get that out there. So personally, I hope it's something along of the lines of something like the Seattle Krakens. I think that would be kind of fun. So we'll see what they go with, but this is a big step for that franchise. This is, you know, when you announce your team name, you know, people can really start to get behind the team and get excited about it. So this will be exciting. I think some positive news that a lot of people are going to need, you know, in these tough times.
Yeah, and speaking of names, I would like to hear from you guys on who the names might be. Jake mentioned the Kraken, there's the totems out there. What do you think, Mike? That might be the name, and do you have anything else to add here?
I was going to say it's a really exciting time for Seattle fans in general because, they've been looking for another team to cheer for since the Supersonics left back in '08. And now they have it. And I think hockey is one of the best sports in the world. You've got the Mariners there who have been a perpetual loser, but, you can't win them all with all of your teams. And you've got the Seahawks, but now they have hockey coming, which I think is a really, really nice option for them. As far as names go, I think I'm going to have to go with Jake's and say that I'd like to see the Kraken. I really like the name, and I can't think of any other name that I would prefer to match Seattle. Plus, with the video that they released in it being in the water, I think that's a telltale sign of where they're going with this. So that's my pick before tomorrow's announcement.
Yeah, we have a couple of awards to talk about as well, starting with Norris. And one big name that was mentioned was, of course, Victor Hedman. Do you guys think that he would be receiving this award this year, or do you think it would go to someone like Yossi or Carlson?
More than likely, I don't think Hedman would get it. I think Hedman is a very solid defenseman. I believe out of those three, he is the leader in the plus minus category. So it just goes to show you that, when he's out on the ice, he's doing what you expect most defensemen to do in preventing goals while the rest of their line is able to score. But I think if you're looking at just specifically this year, I think there's an argument to be made that Hedman is not the guy to be picked, but it's an honor nonetheless for him to be nominated.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I'm not so sure that he deserves it. I know that in the advanced stats community, he is one of the top defensemen. It's him, it's Yossi, it's Hamilton, it's Petrangelo. And, John Carlson isn't as loved, but when the voters get the opportunity, they see all the points that Carlson put up this year, and they go and vote for him. So I don't think Hedman's going to win, which if I had a ballot myself, I wouldn't give him the win either, to be honest. I would give it to Roman Yossi. He's been a criminally underrated player for years now, and he needs to get the recognition that he deserves. But Hedman is very, very quietly, I would say, turning into the best defenseman in Lightning history. And to be honest, and I know this might be a bit of a stretch, one of the best defensemen in NHL history if he's doing this year after year. And he's not a one-year fluke like some of the other defensemen we've seen.
Yeah, like you said, I think the Roman Yossi is going to win it as well because, like you said, he's very underrated. And the way that he plays, he doesn't only play offensively, but very well defensively too. And like you said, he's been underrated since Shea Weber was on the team even. So, I mean, that's been a while already. And I feel like he really is, it's really his time to win this award, and he's very well deserving of it. I mean, we all love Victor Hedman, but I'm not going to say he's outshining either of the other two nominees. The next one we have to talk about is the Selke. I feel like Cirelli was robbed on this one. Couturier from the Flyers, Bergeron from the Bruins, and Ryan O'Reilly from the Blues were nominated. But like I said, I feel like Cirelli was really robbed of this one.
Yeah, as Lightning fans, I definitely think a lot of people are going to feel that way. And, we get to see Cirelli every single day and know that he has consistently outperformed himself. And it's a bummer that he didn't get on there. I think, though, for a lot of ballot-wise, he was number 4. I think he was one of the guys that just missed the cut. So you don't see him on the nominations, but I think for a lot of people, he was definitely up there because of his performance. Now, I'm not going to complain about the people that were nominated either. I think that all those guys on there definitely deserve a shot at the award. Couturier, definitely one that it deserves it as well. So it's a bummer not to see Cirelli on there, but I know a couple people tweeted out what their list was. For a lot of people, Cirelli was number 4. So I think he just missed that spot. But if he keeps up what he's been doing, he is one that is bound to win, that award in the near future.
I am not really happy that Cirelli got disrespected. I don't know if rob's the right word. I feel like he got disrespected because if you look at the three nominees, Couturier deserves to be there. Ryan O'Reilly deserves to be there. Patrice Bergeron really felt like a legacy vote. And he had a really good season, and he played on the top line with Pasternak and Marchand, but he slowed down. And when I saw him two times actually up in Boston, he didn't really stand out to me. And I know that you're not supposed to stand out if you're a two-way player because you're supposed to be in the shadows, but every time Anthony Cirelli was on the ice, he was a big part of the Lightning's success. Every time Mark Stone stepped on the ice, he was a big part of the Knight's success. And I think Mark Stone was another person that should have gotten that third spot. Philip Deneau was another one for the Canadiens. There were tons of people that maybe should have gotten that third nomination. So I'm not too satisfied that it was Bergeron, but if it was someone like Deneau or Stone, I would have probably understood it.
Yeah, I agree with your nominees as well. One other person that I'd like to add is Sasha Barkov. I mean, he's dynamic, and the way he plays offensively and defensively, I mean, that's real reason why the Panthers are even in the play-ins right now. The Lightning tweeted out the thing where you could sign the glass, and within an hour, it was already sold out. Like, nobody could buy tickets for it. And then that's showing how much dedication these fans have to our team.
Yeah, Tampa is an up-and-coming, well, not even up-and-coming at this point. We are one of the bigger franchises in the NHL, and I'm very proud to be able to even say that. Tampa as a hockey market is growing very quickly with our performance in the last couple of years. Obviously, we've continued to grow as a fan base, and it's really cool to see. I'm bummed out that it was on the 24th and 25th because I'm going to be out of town, so I wouldn't have been able to do it even if I wanted to. But it's something cool that the franchise came up with to, you know, try and do something to bring the fans with them essentially to Toronto. You know, a lot of teams are doing cardboard cutouts or stuff of that nature, but obviously we can't do that for hockey since all the games are being played in Toronto. So this is really cool. I like that they did this. I think this is a neat little thing that they did. So I'm very excited for all those fans to get a chance to go out there and sign that. So I just need somebody out there to write in my name for me.
Yeah, it's really cool. So the last segment of this episode is going to be regarding the East. I know we just did the West, and I feel like we did a really good job on that. So starting with the East here, it's going to be Toronto and Columbus. I'm going to go ahead and right now say that I do not want Columbus in it, considering how bad they beat the Lightning last year.
What are you talking about? What happened last year?
I don't think you need a reminder.
No.
Jake, who do you have in this one, buddy?
This will be an interesting series. I think this is going to be one of the closer ones, the tougher ones to pick. Both these teams are good teams. Both these teams have advantages that the other team doesn't. When you look at the Blue Jackets, they're a very good defensive team, whereas Toronto is a very good team when it comes to scoring goals on the offensive side of things. So the one time these two teams played this year, they only played once. That's actually a theme for all these games. Each of these series, the teams only played each other once in the regular season. But the one time they did play, the Blue Jackets actually beat the Leafs 4-3 in overtime. So that right there just shows you that this could be a very close series. You know, I think when I look at this game, I think this is definitely one that goes to 5, and I'm going to give the edge to the Leafs just because they are a much better scoring team. And I think that while Columbus's defense is good, I don't know if it's going to be good enough to stop Toronto's scoring power. We'll see how it plays out too. I think goaltending is also going to be a big factor, but I think the Leafs have the edge in that department as well. So to give you an idea, the Leafs were second in the league in goals for with 237, whereas the Blue Jackets were way down towards the bottom. They were 27th in the league from scoring. So I think the amount of goals that the Blue Jackets let up is going to be the big factor in this one. But my pick is the Leafs in 5 for this one.
Yeah, you bring up a really, really good point in that this is basically a series based on structure versus scoring. And we mentioned last week about John Tortorella being nominated for the Jack Adams, and rightfully so. He really brought that team to a playoff berth or a play-in berth. And without him, I don't think they would have made it, even with the spectacular player, their goaltenders. their defensive structure is just that good. And for that reason, I know that you guys don't want Columbus to advance, but I think I'm going to pick Columbus in 5 because
Boo.
Frederick Anderson was horrible this year. And this series is always, and it's always this way for every series, but this series in particular is going to come down to goaltending. And what's nice is that, just a spoiler for my round robin pick, the Blue Jackets will not be facing the Lightning. Don't worry. But I think they'll get past the Leafs.
I think that Toronto's going to take it in 4. I think that Columbus might win a game or 2, but I don't think they're going to beat the Leafs. I know that you said that Frederick Anderson has not been playing well this year, but I mean, it's a little biased, guys. I mean, I told you guys I'm a Ducks fan too at heart, but Anderson is still a Duck to me, and I can't root against him. And the fact that they have so much offensive firepower, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Marner and Tavares and Matthews are all on the same line right now. So if they keep that structure together, I feel like that might be one of the top lines in the league right now. So going on to the next one here, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins and Montreal Canadiens. Jake, we started with you last time. So Mike, what do you have on this one?
I'm going to make this very quick. I don't believe the Canadiens should have made the playoffs this year. And Carey Price has not been stellar. Max Domi is playing, and he really shouldn't be because he's a type 1 diabetic. And the Montreal Canadiens just don't have a ton. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in a sweep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go too much against that. The Penguins on paper are the better team here. The one time these two teams play, the Penguins beat the Canadiens 4-1. And when you look at all the stats, power plays, penalty kill, goals for, all that good stuff, the Penguins beat the Canadiens in every single section. So I think on paper, it's definitely the Penguins. So unless Carey Price can turn into his old self and stand on his head, then the Penguins are my easy pick for this one. And I'm going to go with the sweep, too. I got Penguins in 3.
I'm going to go against you guys just so that I can be a devil's advocate. I'm going to say the Canadiens will win in 5. You have to root for the underdog sometimes. And, I mean, we don't really know the issue with Sidney Crosby, right? So if he has, like, a big issue with his health or whatever, like, is he going to be even ready for the play-ins? We don't know.
I mean, that's fair, but I still think at the end of the day, Pittsburgh, even without Sidney Crosby, just has too much talent unless they totally fall apart, to lose this.
But guys, you guys will realize that they have Jonathan Drouin too.
And they just go off sides and lose it for him anyway. So,
Lightning legend.
Yeah.
Thanks for Sergachev.
Yeah, exactly. I think we clearly won that trade. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Canadiens here, like I said, in 5, just because I want to be the devil's advocate. The next one is going to be the New York Islanders versus the Florida Panthers. Jake, what do you have?
This is going to be a fun one because personally, I want to see the Panthers win this one, since I would love to potentially get a Lightning versus Panthers in the playoffs. I think that would be a lot of fun. But the one time these two teams matched up against each other, the Islanders beat the Panthers 3-1. I think when you look at this on paper, I think the Islanders are clearly the better team. But, I also look at the Panthers and, they're a team that's sitting there saying, look, we still have not been able to win in the first round. What do we have to lose? Let's go out there and, really try to give it our all here. So Florida Panthers were also, pretty good on the power play. So the power play could end up being a big factor for them when it comes to this series. So I'm going to take the Panthers in 4, I'm going to say, but I think if you're to look at this on paper, the Islanders are the better team, but I could easily see the Panthers taking a couple of games, potentially winning this.
This is one of the tougher matchups to predict, especially in the East, because you've got in net, Sergei Bobrovsky, who was awful, versus Thomas Greiss and Semyon Varlamov, who were pretty good this year. But it's another one of those scoring versus structure type games. The Islanders have this sound defensive system, and the Panthers have a very good core top six, even without Vincent Trocheck, who they gave away to the Hurricanes, and we'll get to them later. I think I want to go with the Panthers in the scenario. And I know I went against the Leafs in that other series where I talked about structure versus scoring, but it's more for sentimental reasons. I'm very close to what Jake had to say in terms of I really want to see Florida and Tampa Bay in a series. So I hope that they exact some revenge from 2016 and they beat the Islanders.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both you guys here. I really want the Panthers to win because we talked a few shows ago about rivalry, and this is how you really ignite a rivalry. You have their two teams facing off each other in a do-or-die scenario, if they do play the Lightning, and I think that would be huge for the rivalry, and it would be huge for both teams. Florida's kind of the laughing stock in the league with no fans. I mean, can you imagine if they go on a run and I'm not saying they're going to win a Stanley Cup, but can you imagine if they went on a run and, actually did something for their team and their fans? Like, that would be huge. So I'm going to go with the Panthers on this one as well. And besides that, like I mentioned earlier about Barkov, like, that guy is one of the most fun players to watch for me in the league. I love the way he plays, and I feel like he's going to overcome the Islanders. And, of course, like we mentioned before, they have Jonathan Huberdeau and Aaron Ekblad. And, of course, you have got the Sonk King, Keith Yandel. They're going to do well, and I hope that they do well. In the final matchup in the East, you got the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers. What do you guys have on this one?
Another good matchup. I know I keep saying that, but I really mean it. A lot of these games are going to be close, fun ones. The one time these two teams went head to head in the regular season, the Rangers were actually the victors there in a 5-2 victory. So, pretty decisive victory for the Rangers in that one. Now, again, playoffs are a completely different beast, so the regular season doesn't matter too much. But looking at stat wise, it's pretty close when it comes to things like power play percentage. Both teams are sitting right around 22%. The Hurricanes are the better penalty killer team. So if it comes down to a special teams game, I would give the edge to the Hurricanes. And both teams are pretty close in goals for and goals against as well, both up in the 200 pluses. So I don't know. I think the thing that makes this game hard to pick is that the Rangers don't even know what goaltender they're going with yet. I think they still have a choice between 3 different goaltenders that they're taking into this. So, I think that's going to end up being a huge factor for the Rangers. And if they can't figure that out soon, I think that's going to end up hurting them because players play differently in front of different goalies. So I'm going to give the edge to the Hurricanes, and I'm going to give it to them in 4. This is going to be interesting, especially because we don't know who the Rangers are going with in net.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to echo what you just said, but you put it really well. The Rangers don't know what they're doing in terms of who's going to be in net. And while the goaltending for the Hurricanes isn't spectacular, Mrazek only had a .905 save percentage this year. Reimer had a .914, which is better, but, Mrazek played more games. I still think with the experience of last year, with the emergence of Aho and Teravainen, Svechnikov, Hamilton coming back, Martin Nikas, who is their new rookie center, Jakub Slavin, the list goes on and on of the quality players that they have, and they have some of the best depth in the NHL. Some of the people they traded for during the trade deadline might not even play in the play-ins. That's how deep their team is. So I think I'm just going to go with Carolina in 4. I think the Rangers could take 1 because of Artemi Panarin, but I don't think they'll take more than that.
I'm going to tag along with what you guys said. I'm going to take the Hurricanes in a sweep. I'm going to say bring on the surge, and this team, like I mentioned about Barkov before, this team is really fun to watch. Their energy that they play with, this team is really fun to watch, and I really hope that they beat the Rangers. No offense to the Rangers or any of their fans, but I really hope that the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Rangers here.
Yeah, and I just want to add too, I think, if you look at this game where the Rangers knew who they were going into it with, like, for example, old reliable Henrik Lundqvist, who back in his prime, I'd pick the Rangers in this series because I think a goalie can make that much of a difference, obviously. And the Rangers do have a little bit of an edge, I think, in scoring. I think the goaltender situation here makes a huge difference. And I absolutely think the Rangers could win this series, but not knowing who you're going in with is a big thing for me, and I think that's going to end up hurting them in the long run.
I completely agree. Moving on to the round robin here. I'm going to go ahead and have a guess and say that we're all going to go to the Lightning, but I don't know. Sometimes Mike goes off the board, and so Mike, we'll start with you.
So you're correct. I'm not going with the Lightning. Not because I don't believe in our team. I very much believe in our team, but I think that this round robin is a good idea for the Lightning to try out some of their black aces during the round robin games. And I know that sounds a little weird, but with all of the injuries and everything, you need your players fresh during the playoffs. And I think it's perfectly fine to put people in like Jamel Smith, Mitchell Stevens, Carter Verhaeghe, Cal Foote maybe, Luke Witkowski. Those types of players should be able to play. You maybe put McElhinney in for a period during the round robins just to get accustomed to non-Lightning shots. So I don't want them to go 3-0, if that makes any sense, because if they do go 3-0 and all of the favorites win in the play-in rounds, that means they have to face Columbus again, and I don't want them to face Columbus again. So I'm going to go with the Caps because the Bruins seem to have their own little problems. The Flyers have their own problems with Carter Hart right now, and I don't want the Lightning to go 3-0. So I'm going to go with the Capitals to win the round robin.
Well, it's interesting you picked the Capitals because I think the Caps versus Lightning game is going to be one of the big deciders in who ends up winning this round robin tournament. Because when I look at this, I think the Lightning can beat the Bruins. They've done it before. It's going to be, tough game, but the Lightning have a tendency to beat the Bruins. And I also think they could beat the Flyers because I think out of these four teams, I think the Flyers are the weakest of the bunch, especially because there might be a few players that aren't going to be end up playing for them as well. So, but I think that Washington Lightning game is going to be a big factor. If the Lightning win that one, I do see them going 3-0, and I am biased, and I am absolutely going to pick the Lightning, the round robin tournament. But I think that's the big game there, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Lightning do end up losing that game against the Capitals because the Lightning have had a history of struggling with rust. Every time, when we go on like a all-star break and then we come back, the Lightning will lose their next two games for whatever reason. They just don't do well with days off, which was something that was originally a concern for me when we were playing on the 9th instead of the 8th, because the Lightning would then have 3 whole days off, which was an issue. But they did flip it to the 8th. So that's only 2 days off now, which will help us out a little bit. But I want to pick the Lightning because I am a Lightning fan, and I think these guys are going to be hungry. They want to erase last year as much as they possibly can. So I think they're going to have a fire under their belly. So I'm going with the Bolts. But that Bolts-Caps game is going to be a deciding factor, I think.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. I mean, we saw with the Lightning against the Caps a couple years ago. I mean, it didn't turn out that great. If we would have won against the Caps, we would have placed the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup final. But I think that we will come ahead top of them. And I don't agree with you, Jake. I don't think that the Flyers are going to be the weakest team because I think the Bruins might actually be the weakest team if Pastrnak can't go and Andre Kasha can't go.
That's a fair point. We don't know who's going to be in and out for everybody officially yet. But we'll see.
Yeah. And really quick, before we end this show, I wanted to talk a little bit about our new sponsors. We just got affiliated. Shout out Gamer Grind Coffee Company, which we're affiliate for. And if you use code BAYBOLTS, you get 5% off at checkout, as well as No Name Nerd. If you're a gamer, like they're designing you a jersey or whatever, and if you use code BOLTS at checkout, you'll get 10% off there as well. And as you guys know, we are donating this year to the Tampa Bay Humane Society. So right now, in COVID and everything else, the best thing you can do right now is pick up an animal that's in need. You know, I'm very pro animal and pro adoption for animals as well, whether it be a dog or cat or whatever. So if you guys want something, make sure you check them out as well. And I believe that's all we have for you this week. And I want you all to take care. And like I said earlier, I want to welcome all the new subscribers. And once again, be sure to enter in that contest to win the jersey.